Welcome to the One More Boom podcast, where we are a different breed. This is more than just a space for oilfield and pipeline professionals. It's a community built for those who refuse to settle for the ordinary. You're here because you're ambitious, resilient, and driven to excel. At One More Boom, we're both more than just work. We're both thriving under pressure, breaking new ground, and pushing limits. This is your place to connect, learn, and grow with others who live for the challenge. You're not average, you're a different breed. Welcome to the One More Boom community.
Welcome to another edition of One More Boom podcast, and we got our homie here, Shawn Miller, over in Abu Dhabi again. So we finally wrangled him back from the desert. So Shawn, how's she going over there?
It's good, buddy. It's good. It's 30 degrees during the day. I hear you guys are having a little bit of a cold snap back home. So even back in BC where I live, man, it's like, I think it's minus 22 during the night. So pretty happy to be here for the weather. I mean, obviously you guys got to work too, so that's always good, but it's good, man. How's the weather back there? How's that treating you?
Gosh, a little warmer here today, but yes, definitely a cold snap. And seeing my whole feed is pipeliners and oil field guys. And yeah, they're battling some pretty good weather. They're minus 40. I've seen minus 48 and some with the wind chill. So it's definitely a struggle. So kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today, which is less than ideal conditions. So as you can see, I'm not in the studio if you're watching on YouTube or what have you. And Shawn, he's got a nice little background there from our recording devices. So we're making this thing work, man. It's two guys that are moving around doing the things, and we're still here for you guys to hopefully provide some content.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that's the goal, right? Is to provide the content, and we're not always doing it in ideal conditions. I mean, thankfully I'm in the condo today, but tomorrow I'm off to the field. So I'll be stuck in a camp in the middle of the desert. So that, I mean, talk about not ideal conditions, Nikki. The camp there, man, is, it's probably from the 1930s. It's,
Wow.
Yeah, you're always feeling gritty because there's sand in everything. Like you walk, there's sand in your socks, there's sand in your ears, the AC is blowing sand, so it's ideal conditions are not ideal there either.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, or maybe you're not able to, but are you able to record any of that stuff for anyone to see?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
most people, I've never been exposed to it. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, to be honest with you, it's not a lot different. It's still on the opposite spectrum of rig camps and pipeline camps and stuff. But yeah, for sure, I'll toss some stuff up. I'll be there tomorrow. I did a little stint of the gym there last ditch when I was in on social media, just kind of show some people and just talk about, again, ideal conditions, man. I mean, the gym is it's not much better than a hotel gym, but you got to get that stuff done, right? You got to, for mental health or whatever it is. I mean, I get up at 4 a.m, same thing. Get up 4 a.m, hit the gym, have some coffee, get my shake that I've been drinking for the last 10 years, and then head out to the field.
that's incredible. Yeah. And it's amazing. Yeah. Like it's a different, obviously you're 30 degrees there right now and sand, but yeah, like the living conditions are really no different. You're isolated, you're away. And really, how many kilometers away is it from Kelowna?
From Kelowna?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like where I am
Just
now in Abu Dhabi?
distance-wise. Yeah.
I think it's, you know what, man? I don't even know. I'd have to Google it. I don't know how far it is. I mean,
Oh, that's fair. But the point I was going after is it doesn't, like, if you're anywhere over 3-4 hours away, you're not going home. So it doesn't matter how far you are. You're there until day's off, right? Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And I think you interviewed a buddy of yours a couple weeks ago, and then I interviewed another group, the Phoenix Foundation, last week. So it's been a while since you and I sat down and chatted. Yeah.
it's a pretty deep conversations, man. Some hard ones and some very cool things that have come out of those conversations. And I hope that, struggling and reach out to the Phoenix Foundation. I hope you took a little bit of what Matt had to say and took it home with you and kind of, if you needed some of that help, I hope that helped whoever needed to hear it.
What was your biggest takeaway from the discussion with Matt? 'Cause I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like his was, yeah, like he tried to end his life. It didn't, the tree branch broke, or he might not be here today. How was that sitting through that conversation for you? Because I don't think you've gone to that point in your life where you've had those thoughts, or have you had those thoughts? I don't think I've ever asked you that. Let's start there.
I've never gotten that far, man. I'll be honest, I spent the last year working on my own company, in my office, in my home, staring at four walls for a year. I would get up in the morning, same thing as I always do, get to the gym, come back. It got to the point where I had to force myself at 12 o'clock to walk the dog for an hour just to get out and get some sunshine. But I was getting to the point, man, where I was, middle of the day just breaking down, like for something so minute. It just is not for me. Four walls is not for me. That's why, part of the reason why I came back, I born and bred in the field, right? 20, 45 years old. I've been in the field for 20 some years. And there's always that dream, right? Is to go home and be with the family and work from home. And everyone's like, oh, you must be so happy. The family life was fantastic. I loved it. I loved being able to have dinner on the table for my family when they got home from work and school. I loved being able to be at my kids' horseback riding and gymnastics and all that stuff every single day and showing up and being there for them. But what I couldn't handle, Nick, was the four walls. I couldn't. So I never got to the point where I wanted to end it, but it very quickly came to realize that was not something for me, and that was not something I could continue to do. I still work with those companies, obviously, like work on that company, but it's from here, or when I'm home on days off, or that sort of thing. I just can't. I can't stay home. It's not in my blood.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And yeah, we've touched on that a couple times, and it's really, yeah, it is the dream for a lot of people. And I can work from anywhere doing the things that I do. And I'm contained to these four walls. I'm sitting here. Yeah. Less than ideal conditions. I'm dog sitting. Like that's what I'm doing to be able to live right now. So I live at a girl's house, and my dog sit while she's gone away, and I'm making it work, because it's what going through a divorce. I don't know anyone who hasn't, like your buddy Matt, right? Like losing the family first, losing all of your finances, all of that. Like you're starting from scratch again. And to me, yeah, I fought it for a long time and I blamed everybody else, but it was until I started looking inside and I wasn't happy. I was the problem. And I think that's what a lot of us taking that accountability. And you made that choice to work at home, and it does all go back to choices. Every choice that we've ever made has ended up where we are today, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So to touch back on your question, Nick, what was the biggest takeaway? I've been overseas for a very, very, very long time. So it's a little bit different than what he was kind of describing, as far as like, he'd get home from a hard day at work and, all she wanted to do was see him, because her love language was quality time. And he just wanted 15 minutes to himself, man. And I just got a shiver just thinking about it. But, there's a lot of guys that sit outside in their trucks when they get home, because they just need to decompress. So I think one of the biggest takeaways, and where I'm going with this is, like, I'm overseas. So when I go home, I'm there 100%. So there's no way I'm dragging any of that stuff home with me, which I'm pretty lucky. I'm pretty fortunate. I'm very grateful for what I can do with, and for doing it and being able to provide for my family and that sort of thing. And I'm also very grateful for being able to leave this here. When I fly home, that's all my decompression time. I got 2 days of flying home, it's all the decompression time. And my wife's real good. My family's real good. The first night I'm a zombie. They basically, like, they leave me alone, sort of, you know what I mean? Like, as far as, they're happy to see me, and there's lots of hugs and stuff like that. And I'm usually in bed by 6 o'clock, up at, 2 a.m. at the gym. And being at the gym, even at 2 o'clock in the morning, getting back from the gym, it's huge. So that I can show up for them properly that first morning. But one of the biggest takeaways was that learning your spouse's love language and making sure that they're getting the love the way that they want to be loved. But man, it's real hard to listen to them say, like, can you imagine? I can't imagine it, man. I can't imagine having your whole life ripped away from you and then being staring at four walls, left with nothing.
Well, you talk about the four walls, and once you go and you leave tomorrow for camp, right now you're in town and you're able to do the things and kind of whatever you want outside of your responsibilities there. But once you go over to camp, they're four walls again, man, and they can mess with you a lot. And that was something that I didn't personally when I was going. Yeah, same as you. I've worked in the field pretty much all my life until the last couple years here. And those four walls, I didn't know how to manage those feelings. So I just drove it all. And I talked about it with the Phoenix Foundation, like drove all those feelings down into my big toe. And I'm okay. It's all good. And it's not all good if you're not dealing with those thoughts that are going through your head and figuring out why those are there. Like why am I having these thoughts, whether they're positive or negative, and figuring out what's working, what's not working, and then being able to be open enough to have those conversations with your spouse. I was, and I mentioned it, I talked a little bit about it on the Phoenix Foundation episode there and I don't think I've talked about it with you, but there was a time, I think it was 2014, 2015. I was making the most money I've ever made in my career. One year I worked about 300 days, I believe it was. I was working even on like my days off, all the paperwork and all the things on that side. And I was driving back from Grand Prairie and I was literally hitting myself in the face. And I didn't even know why I was doing it while I was driving. So I wanted to feel something, but I didn't even realize why I was doing it. Like, it didn't make sense. And I'd be driving and start dry heaving, but it was anxiety for going home because I was more comfortable. Yeah. I was more comfortable in the field because it's a known, right? You get up to work in the morning, you know what that safety meeting looks like. You know what the day is going to look like. And then you're going to go eat and then go to bed. Like your day is set. There's things that happen throughout the day when you're working, but you're managing it because it's right in front of you. But all of the external stuff, the kids are going on with their own lives. The wife's going on with their own lives. They have their own friends. You don't even know their teachers, all of that. And you need to address that stuff because it's not normal.
Yeah, it's a big deal, man. It's I can't even imagine. Well, and I do know guys who have anxiety, even from here going home. The days leading up to leaving to come here or to the side of the world, there's anxiety because you're leaving family and you're finally into the routine and that sort of thing. And then when they're going home, it's the same thing. They got that feeling of dread.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just not ideal all around. And so what would be your biggest suggestion then for guys that are working away with less than ideal conditions to make it ideal?
Well,
as ideal as it can be.
It takes two, but it has to do with your spouse, man, I think. And a lot of what's going to happen in your life is based on who you pick as a partner. So, and if you aren't growing together or you ain't having those hard conversations, it makes it real, real tough, man. My suggestion is to start having those because that's your biggest cheerleader, right? It's supposed to be your spouse. And if you aren't getting that love, respect, and cheerleading and that sense of doing something to better the family and that someone knows that that's what you're doing and why you're doing it, oof, man. So my suggestion is like start having those hard conversations, start talking about what you need as a man or as a woman, whether it's, and no one wants to be thank you for what they do, you know what I mean? But my wife just sent me a text the other day, man, and I was just like, God, thank you so much. Just like, the text was like, you sacrifice so much for us, and I can't thank you enough for what you do for us. And just like, man, thank you. Like, it was just heart-wrenching, man, because, I've only been gone for 10 days, but it was like, it's those little things, like, I'll tear down the moon for her. You know what I mean? Like, because she understands that we've grown so much as a couple because we have those hard conversations, and they're tough, man. There's, there's crying, there's quiet moments, there's silent days, there's, you know, they suck. But if you aren't having them, you're not growing together. And then you can't be that power couple, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? So I would suggest having those conversations and finding out what each other needs the most, and then making sure that that connection is always there.
So there's the flip side to that too, is for single dudes, like where do you get like, and that's where do you get that from? Like myself, I'm here, it's just me, well, and the dogs. So we're good. And without those guys, it's amazing. If you don't have a dog and you're able to have one, 100%, it's a benefit. But if you don't have that partner and that person to help cheerlead each other, it goes both ways. It's very tough. And the conversation with the Phoenix Foundation guys, those are ex-first responders, which was super cool to hear the conversations that they had with each other. And they have that sense of community with, it's not everyone, but the stuff that they deal with, they literally pick up the phone and they phone their buddy, and they're like, hey, I'm having these thoughts. I don't know where they're coming from. That group anyways, and that's why they started the Phoenix Foundation, because they were able to have those conversations with each other, and they're like, this ain't right. We got to figure this out. Like, we shouldn't be having these. And if you're a man, and you're a high performer and you're high stress situations, I think any point in your life, I think you're going to have those types of thoughts. Like, is this worth it? Is this worth even being here? Like, what am I doing? And being able to have those conversations with yourself and then your buddies. And that's also why we want to start this community that we've been chatting about for a while. And again, less than perfect conditions. We haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but the longer that we don't do something like that, even if it's one person that's helped from something like that. Yeah, and that's why we continue podcast, because at least it's something. We hope it's valuable content. But you're going to have these thoughts that are rolling through your head. And if you can't, you're not meant to manage this stuff on your own. That's why tribes have been around forever.
That's what I was just gonna say that. Yeah, we're built from tribes. The lone wolves don't last.
No. And when they do, it's like a tree falling in the forest. Did it even exist? If you're a lone wolf, and no one's going to remember us anyways in 3 generations, let's be honest. It's one of those things, but if that's those thoughts going through your head, and having a community and having people to talk to, your friends are most likely going through something similar, whether they're married, single, divorced, whatever have you. When you're in isolation and you go to those 4 walls, you're going into camp, or you're going into your hotel room, or you're working from home, those 4 walls can get small real fast, and those thoughts, and they can consume you. And that's why we push these micro habits, these daily habits that are going, because you're moving the needle. And to me, that's one of the biggest things that you can do, is if you're moving the needle in the right direction, and you don't know till the end, like the literal end, if that is the right direction, but you're moving the needle, you're getting that dopamine hit, you're starting to feel better. And then once you start gaining momentum, man, whether you're coming out of a divorce or your marriage isn't going that great, but then you see slow progressions over time that, yes, the things that I'm doing are working, then it's all worth it. And I think that's really all we can control at the end of the day.
I think you're 100% right. I do want to ask you though, what do single dudes do? Where do they get the support and the cheerleading from?
I really think it has to start inside first, honestly. So start to start to deal with those things internally, because if we're not happy inside here, we can't give it out to somebody else. And if we can't have those honest conversations with ourselves first, then I can't, like, when I'm struggling, and you even acknowledge it. You're like, I haven't heard from you in 3 days, or like, you okay? Like, just those simple things. So having people around you that do actually care about you, that check in on you. And if you don't have that type of network around you, and those friends and colleagues and stuff that are actually, then you might want to consider getting some new friends. That's what I'd say.
Matt,
Yeah.
Matt
But I
mentioned
really
this.
think it starts internal.
I think that goes with single or not single, right? I think,
Yeah.
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 First time those
Yeah.
conversations.
That's what happened with my marriage, where I wasn't happy with myself. Like, yeah, I was making decent money. I was progressing in my career. Things on the outside seemed good, but it wasn't inside. So then that bleeds out into the ether, around to everyone around you, at work, your kids, if you do have kids, even your family. And my mom, she just checked it, or she messaged the other day, tried to call. I wasn't doing that good. I didn't pick up the phone. Like, and I still haven't phoned her back. That's been 3 days now. Like, so I know when you start recognizing those, and then when I say it out loud, I'm like, yeah, I wasn't doing that well inside. So having those people that recognize that around you and be able to call you out is a good thing. So if they're reaching out and they're concerned about you, it's because they actually care about you. So trying to find those people, that tribe, is huge.
Couldn't agree more, Nikki. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's wild. So if you don't have those people, try to find them. That's what we're here for. And sometimes it just takes, for me, when I was coming out of rehab and I was flying back, stupid algorithm on your phone, it starts showing you what you're searching for, right? Like, you start liking things. And where I'm going with that is I started more personal development stuff, which I never was exposed to before. Like, what are you talking about? We just go and we just do the things. And that stuff started showing up in my feed more and more. And you start gravitating towards that self-development, man. That's what saved me. It was first acknowledging there was a problem, but then you have no idea where to start. So and sometimes it takes, where I was going with that is, sometimes it takes you just hearing something. And that's why we like these podcasts and putting these out. Because if you hear something and it resonates, it might not be you or I that somebody turns to, but it might be, they might get the courage to be able to acknowledge that, hey, I'm not the only one. Not the only one that's feeling this way. And my life is not perfect conditions, and I'm not happy with where it's going. That's why I always start, with my clients, even my business coaching clients, not even just the life stuff, but I always start with, what does your ideal day look like? And 9.9 times out of 10,
They don't know.
they're like, what? I have kids. I have one client, she's the single mom. And she's like, ideal day, I don't even know what it looks like because the kid's always crying. I'm like, take that out of the equation, man. Like, if you just sat back and if you take the wife out of the equation, the kids, the career out of it, if you could just paint a literal picture, what would that look like? And people, we aren't bred that way. We're bred to work. We aren't bred to have a fulfilling life. Let's put it that way. So they can't answer that question. And it's taken a month and she still hasn't done it, that particular client. But that's why I always start there, because it gets the brain thinking in a different synapse and a different angle. It's like, well, let's look at things from a different lens. I have these glasses on right now. So it's just like that. If I put my sunglasses on, life looks totally different, and we have these blinders on. because we've been bred from school and your family and all of these things. And it's not you. Like, it's somebody else's values. It's somebody else's way of the world that we haven't taken that off to look at who do we actually want to be and how do we actually want to live? And most of us have never asked us that question.
How do we want to impact the world?
Exactly. And you existing is changing the world.
Know that.
And if you can, just being here, it's just the little things. And it's pretty dang cool when you look at it that way. And I think like your buddy Matt there and others that we talked to, they've realized, like the Phoenix Foundation guys, they're like, that is our mission now. Like, we've realized that this is our mission, is to help people. We've realized that we aren't the only one that have these thoughts. So take those less than ideal conditions, and it's like, man, we can teach people because we've experienced it. And with those guys, it's super cool because they're coming at it from a non-medical, so anxiety, depression,
Pillars.
Even, the cortisol is crazy. So what they're doing with cortisol testing now, they're coming from it from a non-medical way, because they've learned how to regulate this stuff without any outside influence. And when they talk to doctors now, they're like, wow, this is incredible. What you guys are doing is incredible. So their whole mission is to get it out into the world. So it's grateful to have those guys on, because they're on the same path as we are. And we're all just trying our best to push that information out, because we've experienced it and we didn't learn it from a book, and we've messed a lot of shit up along the way.
You're right about that.
Yes, sir. So no, with the less than ideal conditions, what are the things, if you had to give the list of 3 things guys could start with, what would they be?
Less than optimal conditions. I think that, I think it all depends on who you are as a person. And it's, for me, it's, making sure I have bands to work out with, running shoes to run in the desert or wherever. And then, this sounds stupid, man, my own pillow. Those little creature comforts, man. It's like, that's what really kind of gets me through those long hitches in the middle of the desert, 4 walls. I mean, you head into the field most of the days, anyways, but here, the other kind of isolation that lots of guys don't know about here is I'm generally working with people that don't speak my language, or maybe one person speaks my language, or they don't speak it very well. So you're not there's no kind of deep, meaningful conversations being had. It's very surface level. It's very, and I mean, I don't know how long you've gone on for, Nick, just having surface level conversations with people, but if you can't get that connection with someone, and you're only heading back to the room to have a quick conversation with the wife or the kids, because it's time to go to bed because you just worked a 16-hour day, 17-hour day, or 20-hour day, or whatever it's going to be. I mean, lots of times, man, I'm out there, it's 22, 26-hour days. So, I'm having those quick conversations just before I'm trying to get some sleep so I can get back out there or whatever. So if you're not having those deep conversations, or better than surface level conversations, it's another kind of isolation that we don't talk about. So I think it's really important to make sure that you are connecting with people, and then you have something like your pillow, man. I take the goddamn thing everywhere I go, because it's just like one of those little creature comforts that it makes me feel like crawling into a bed with your own pillow. Doesn't matter where you are. It's yours. You know what I mean? It's one of those little weird things.
You know how many pillows and blankets I've lost over the years because I've left them in camp or in a hotel? I can't even count. It's crazy. So I appreciate those ones. And to touch on the surface level conversations, I can't do it.
That's tough.
I can't. And I hate that word can't, but I just can't do it. So I was at a dating event. It was a singles event on Friday, and I don't do those types of things, but I was supporting a friend, and it was super interesting to me. I made it 2 hours, which was pretty incredible, I thought.
Good on you.
For myself. But it was yeah, as soon as I spark, because I'm pretty social and I wanted to help her out with the event because everyone mingles too. They knew each other, like they came together, like a guy and a girl or something like that, like, or a couple girls come together. So they don't go out and start talking to people because a lot of people they don't operate that way. They just operate in their own little bubble. So I would go around and just start making conversations with everyone to try to spark that room up and help her out. And plus, I'm looking for somebody too, right? So there is that. But literally, I think people have forgotten how to communicate. I don't know if it was through COVID or I hate that thing, but it's I don't know. People don't know how to talk anymore. And then it's literally like, yeah, what do you do for work? What do you do for? It's just surface level stuff. And then if you do ask them something that's a little bit meaningful, they shut down. Like, oh, and they just
Is that
and
crazy,
they
man?
they don't. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They just
she.
don't shut down.
I got an invite from her to come to the event, and I was like, first off, I'm across the world. Secondly, I don't think my wife would appreciate it. But I so even here, I live with a couple Americans, and it takes a lot. Surface level sucks, and I don't. It's not that I don't want to. I'm the same as you. I can only go for so long, and I'm done. Like I just I can do the pleasantries and the that sort of thing, depending on the atmosphere and where I am and those sort of things. But I don't last very long. Tell me about you. What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What do you know what I mean? Like I want to know. Give me some deep level stuff because like how are you? No, tell me how you really are. When I ask you how you are, I want the deep, long answer. I don't want the good.
One of my mentors, he he was at the grocery store, and I love this story. When he like his marriage was going to shit. This was 2008, 2009 when the everything crashed. He was in the financial industry, mortgages specifically, and insurance, and everything was just going to a tank. And what he's at the checkout counter, the girl's asking him, "Well, how's your day?" And he was going to give the canned answer. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing good. And he just spilled everything on her. And he's like, "You want to know how I'm doing today? Well, I'm sleeping around with my wife. She knows about it. And my mortgage business is going in the tank. And I don't do anything with my kids and blah, blah, blah," and just spewed everything out on her. And the look on her face was it's just, he's describing all of this, right? And I'm not saying that is the way to do it too, but we bottle that stuff inside. And if we don't have that person to be able to, in a safe way, like
They'll spew out
you and
sooner or
I,
later.
like that, yeah, you're going to find an outlet for it. And for dudes, it's usually anger. And that's when you start the yelling and the screaming and abuse and this is where it comes from. But it's literally driving all of those things back to the big toe analogy. You're just driving it all in, and eventually it fills up and it's like a balloon and it's going to pop. So it's
Drinking, drugs,
drinking,
women.
drugs, anything to sedate. Yeah. So I like to say, yeah, I raw dog life because I don't drink and I don't do drugs and I stopped all that stuff. And you're having to deal with all those feelings now when they come up. And if you haven't learned how to regulate it, and I'm not perfect at it by any means, I do know how to sedate with social media and other things. I'll use something that's not as like the drugs and stuff like that, but we all got something that we're using to sedate. So it's interesting how the brain works. So just being aware, self-awareness is something that most of us never thought of, but when you can start to take control over that, yeah, you can start to exponentially advance your life.
And that's a whole nother subject just in itself, man. People who are not self-aware. It's a whole nother conversation we won't get into today, but
Yeah, 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 yeah,
it's massive.
yeah. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, takeaways from some of the conversations that we've had over I think this is the 14th episode here, and we're cruising along and adding some things. But yeah, grow that tribe and find somebody, whether that's a counselor or something like that, and whoever that needs to be. But figure out why you're stuck and you can start moving forward. And it doesn't have to, it's never going to be the ideal condition. Whether you start making more money, you have a whole separate other problem. If you start getting fit, you have a whole separate other problem. And I mean, you can't eat out and do things like that, but it is an issue when you start to bring other problems in that you need to deal with. So it's never going to be ideal. So just start the thing.
Start the thing. I like it. I like it a lot.
Start the thing. So no, it's good. But yeah, we'll let you get to bed here. And now, what, 8:30, 8 o'clock there?
8 o'clock.
8?
You know, it's about bedtime at 8.
8 o'clock. Yeah. So we'll let you get out, and I appreciate your time here today, Shawn.
Yeah, man, I missed you. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah. Well, let's get some stuff rolling here, and we will see you next week.
That's good, buddy. Can't wait.
Thanks, brother. We'll chat soon.
That's it for today's episode of One More Boom Podcast. Remember, you're part of a community that doesn't settle for the status quo. Here, we push boundaries, support each other, and thrive under pressure. Whether you're out in the field or leveling up your career, we've got your back. Stay connected, stay driven, and keep embodying the grit of a different breed. Until next time, keep pushing forward. Together, we'll achieve more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of One More Boom.